Hi, everybody. This is Norman Koshnak here with Donald Brown behind me and a picture of Marley and Warren. We are now watching a plethora of cricket. We've had a lot of cricket over the last, 24 hours. Some games have been washed out. Some games have been well and truly on. Australia and West Indies, for example. Australia is doing a bit of a number on the West Indies with the likes of this is Reg Byrne. I can see him there. I just didn't see you there. How are you?
Hello, Norman. How are you, fella?
I'm very well indeed. A bit relaxed here. You can see my Donald Bradman signed
I can. Did you play with Bradman in your time, Norman?
Of course I did not. I'm not that bloody old. I have met. I didn't meet. Actually, I had one sad thing. I never met Don Bradman, but I met obviously Neil Harvey, Arthur Morris in that vintage.
Yeah.
And Neil Harvey's still here, but I went with Brian Majunda to his place only a few weeks ago, and that was very special. Did I tell you about that?
No, tell me, please.
Okay. Brian Majunda, he's got his channel Rev Sports. He wrote Tendulkar's book, renowned journalist in India. He knew I knew Neil Harvey, and we decided to go to his home in St Ives here in Sydney. Neil is now 94 years old and not really in any great condition. In fact, he's got a form of nerve or sciatica, nerve-ending problems. He's got all sorts of issues on a walking frame. The man's not doing well, but he's 94.
He played in the 48 series, didn't he? 1948.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yep, he was 20 years of age when Bradman was 40. And he scored 6,000 test runs. He, a legendary batsman, left probably the second best batsman Australia produced at the time, behind Bradman and maybe Victor Trumpet. And he also, he was the chairman of selectors of Australian cricket at the time when he selected Dennis Lillee, Jeff Thompson, Rod Marsh, Max Walker, so the Chappell brothers.
Early 70s, I'm guessing that would be.
Yeah. Ian Chappell adores him, reveres him. He was a baseballer as well. He was a champion. So I got the chance to bring Boria to his home. And normally Neil doesn't come to the front door. First of all, because he's 94. Secondly, if he doesn't know you, he doesn't go near the door.
Yeah.
But so I banged on the door and I said, and I could see through the back of the house. He could walk straight into the back of his house. And I called out Neil, and I said, it's Norman. So he made his way to the front door, back door. What was the back door, front door, front door? And he made his way. In fact, it's the back door. So we went there, and he's opened the door, barely could open the door. And I'm standing there, and he's going, Norman, how are you? And I said, good. And I said, how are you? And he did make he made a very interesting comment. He said that he feels so bad he wants to die. And I was quite affected by that. But I said, Neil, cheer up, mate. I'm here. We'll have some fun. The Boria came to the door.
Wouldn't cheer me up if you were at my front door, Norman. I've got to be honest.
At 94, probably not. So Neil was there, and I got him chatting. We joked, but he loves a joke. I said, mate, look at me, I'm looking beautiful these days. He goes, Norman, I don't think so. And I said, how dare you say that? We mucked around. And then Boria was introduced to him. Now he's very reluctant to meet Indian media at all, but I was able to, get him to meet Boria. Boria was very welcoming. Took no photos, no video, nothing. Yeah. We had a chat, so it was beautiful. Anyway, so that was recently. So, and we went around the country. I spent time in Alan Mullally, as you know. Yeah. And that was great. And he was quite nice.
Quite nice.
On his best behaviour. It was very good.
Do you have a few beers, Norman?
No, none at all. None at all. No. Anyway, so we did all that. We went to Adelaide. We saw Tony Rose, another colleague of mine, and we had a great time. We went to the World Cup finals, the whole thing. It was just amazing. Yeah. Anyway, so today we have had some alarming news, and I'll get you to update what you know about the England-Pakistan match tomorrow. I've got a report from I've uploaded it from Joe Root. Did you hear what he said?
I read what he said this morning. I didn't hear him. I read what he said. Go on, but tell me.
Well, on my channel, you'll see there is a little video about Joe. I'll let you listen to it.
I suppose the obvious place to start is how is everyone, and can you give us some more details over what's happened over the last sort of 12 hours or so?
Yeah, there's going to have to be Marcus Jascotic, Rob Key, Brendan McCullum. There's a new top 3 for tomorrow. As far as I'm aware, there's obviously a few guys not feeling 100%, but I didn't feel great yesterday, and I woke up a lot better today. So hopefully it's just a 24-hour virus, and I don't think it's like food poisoning or COVID or anything like that. I think it's just one of those things that we've unfortunately picked up as a group. We try to do absolutely everything right to make sure we're prepared really well for this game, and sometimes life throws these kind of things at you as a squad, and we just got to see how we pull up tomorrow and do everything we can to be right and ready to go.
Hi, Joe.
So there you go. That was a bit of a snippet of what happened.
That's what I heard, and the latest I've got, Norman, is that the ECB have approached the Pakistan Cricket Board and asked for the match to be delayed by 24 hours because apparently over half the squad are down with illness, and England wouldn't be able to field a competitive cricket team. So I haven't heard any more than that. But I do know, well, Joe Root was making light of it, that they hope it's only a 24-hour bug. But even after 24-hour bug, normally you're not always feeling your best for the day after that. But England have to get on with it, I guess. But
I seriously doubt the Pakistan Cricket Board will allow this. Not because they're being nasty.
Well, they can't put a side on the field. If England have got 11, I heard it was 11 players from the squad who are down. If they've only got a squad of 17 out there, that's what Joe Root was getting at. That Jascotic and McCullum, who are the backroom staff, obviously are going to have to play if they make them do it. But shame you're not out there. I'm not out there, Norman, or Chris. That'd be good, wouldn't it?
Well, as you heard Joe Root say, he's going to open with Marcus Jascotic.
Yeah.
Also,
tell me, Norman, you'll know more about this than me. Isn't that what happened with Mike Whitney back in the 1981? Wasn't there a major injury problem and he got drafted in from the Lancashire Leagues or something?
Absolutely.
I mean, what a dream come true that must be.
Well, I've interviewed him and he's talked about that very interview on CVRK, another channel which I did. He actually talked about that very situation. It's remarkable, but I mean, look, that was very humbling for Mike Whitney to have that happen, and quite frankly, the game went on. So I get your point, but I think they'll still play.
I would bet that the match will be delayed till Friday. One day delay. That's what I think.
How many test matches have been delayed like this? Can you mention any? Well,
there was one this summer was delayed a day because the Queen died. They put it back a day.
Right. Oh, that's quite a monument.
Wasn't there one in the last Ashes series? Didn't one of them get? Wasn't there a day they put back a day?
The whole team got COVID or something, and they put. No, that wasn't an ODI or a T20. ODI it was.
Okay.
Remember the whole team went down. Yeah. They had to bring in another squad. But they still played it on time. Just had a different. And Ben Stokes ended up captaining that. I remember he wasn't even in the squad. He wasn't even meant to be fit.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I don't know what in that series, Norman. I'm trying to remember what happened.
They played Pakistan and they ended up winning. And
3-zip. 3-zip with a
Saqib Mahmood bowled well. I remember he bowled particularly.
Yeah.
Okay, so look, we'll wait and see. But at this point, we'll assume it's still being played. Everyone's asking about. I mean, this guy Tahir's said hello, and he's talking about how the Pakistan innings.
Hi, Tahir. I hope it's Tahir. Tahir, tell us if you're out in Pakistan, because I'd be interested if he is for his view on what the pitch conditions and are going to be like in Rawalpindi.
Apparently, based
flat.
on what we saw with Australia was a road. Remember, and Pakistan batters scored truckloads of runs against us. I remember. It's likely to be something similar. I don't think it'll be any different, to be really honest. I'll be surprised if it's a road. So, all right. It's exciting, though. It's the first time in 18 years, I think, England have played there.
2005.
4 or 5, yeah.
2005 we last played.
Yeah.
Do you know that James Anderson was in that touring party in 2005 that went to Pakistan? He didn't play in any of the tests, but he was actually in the party. Isn't that amazing?
It is amazing. It just shows the longevity of good old James Anderson.
You would have retired him 2 years ago, Norman, as you said. I remember you saying you would have had him out to pasture, chucked him out with the bathwater, you said. You said he's hopeless.
I never said the words he was hopeless. I never said the word.
Well
Yeah.
past it, you said. Well past his best. You said you might as well be in the
He's
side if
40,
he's playing.
he's 40 years old, isn't he?
Coming on 41, I think.
Okay.
But he's so fit. Norman, he is
Oh,
unbelievably fit, and he's still bowling. He bowled beautifully in the English summer. And
actually, I would argue he's gotten better.
Yeah, I think. Well, you know what it's like, Norman. You learn your trade, don't you? At cricket particularly, you can mature well with age.
I
He's
played last Sunday in Wollongong, which is south coast here in Australia.
Is that the duck you won awards by you there, Norman? Is that a big duck?
No, I scored 2 runs, and I
Oh, well
also,
done. That's one of your high scores of the season.
I took a wicket too. And,
First wicket of the season?
I got the guy caught. It was actually, wait for this, the person I played against is a touring Chinese representative as their national player. A gun little bat, and he's playing for Sydney Cricket Club.
Yeah.
And he hit me for 4, and then he tried to cut me, and he popped it up to a very short cover, and I took the wicket. Mind you, my figures weren't very impressive. It was 4 overs, no maidens, 1 for 40, but that's all right.
Oh, did that guy, have you provided him with some new kit, Norman, after he burnt his last lot in the changing rooms? After he got out?
No. Yeah, let's move on. So the fact is, that was my 99th match for the SCG. 99th. Next match will obviously be my 100th.
And is that your first wicket, Norman?
No, it's my 31st wicket. I've got a record of all my wickets. I've taken 31 wickets
I'm sure you have.
in 99 matches. But that means that if I make the 100th, which I'm supposing I will, I will be the first to play 100 matches for the SCG 11, and I will go on to the SCG members area as a plaque.
What brilliant! Absolutely brilliant.
So there's Bradman's picture. There's Howard Larwood or someone else, and Vera Collin, and there's Norman Kochnak. Anyway,
that rather diminishes the effect of the other plaques, doesn't it?
No, it actually brings it to another level. Let's be honest. Okay, so all right, let's look at what's happened. Australia today played a West Indian team that was commendable at first, but they ended up getting.
Is it the first test, Norman? Is it the first test?
Yeah, it was the first test.
Did young Chanderpaul play? Is he making his test debut?
Yes, he did. But he hasn't batted yet, but he did.
So what did the Aussies rack up in front of 250 people and 5 dogs? What did they rack up?
There wasn't many people. So the score is 2 for 293. With Dave Warner, he got out for 5. He nicked it on the inside edge on the stumps of Seals. Usman Khawaja batted very well. He got 65, and then Marnus Labuschagne 154 not out, and Steve Smith 59 not out.
Wow. Okay, so, Labuschagne a good player.
Yeah, so 2 for 293. Really, Kemo Roach, he's about the same age as Jamie Anderson. He's still bowling, so he didn't take a wicket.
Just not that old. You'll be surprised. You should look him up. About 35, 36. That's all he is.
Yeah, not young. Kyle Mayers took 3 wickets, which Jason Holt was playing as well. Yeah. So Australia are smashing them there at the Optus Stadium, which I was there for the World Cup. That was quite a good ground. It's very nice. It's good holes.
This is the new ground in Perth, yeah?
Yeah. Holds about maybe 60,000 people. And so there was only about 600 people there, to be honest. It was disgusting. Australian crowds just not turning up.
Well, they've had so much cricket, haven't they? I mean, they've had the World Cups, but there again, Australia haven't played a test since July, and haven't played a test at home since the last Ashes series. So it's it's a shame that they're not getting crowds for test matches. It's a real shame.
And it's been 3 years since the test matches played in Perth as well. So really, there's no excuses. They should have had a bigger crowd. They reckon that they should have played at the Wacker, because even though it would have been less numbers, it would have appeared more full, and that's probably a good point.
Is there a backlash from the Perth, the Western Australian public against the new ground? Do they like the tradition of the Wacker ground? Do you think?
Yeah, very good point. I mean, from a AFL perspective, the Australian Football League, our aerial ping pong, as we call it, it's a great ground because it holds more people. They can fit more in there. It suits the crowd that they get. But as far as cricket is concerned, I would actually argue you're right that there is a backlash there. So
Yeah.
I would agree that there's probably not a great deal of enjoyment watching cricket there, because really the Wacker is only around the corner and it is magnificent still to this
Oh, it's
day.
close by. The stadium's nearby. Yeah.
It's a waterway which is near the casino.
Yeah.
I actually parked Alan Mullally drove us, and he parked his car near the Wacker, and we went across the bridge to the Optus Stadium, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I've been to the old Wacker and I've been to the casino, so I've been to both.
so you have an idea where it is. So it's on the casino side. Let's call it an island of sorts. It's there. So it's, it's in
Burswood
that.
Bridge. Is it Burswood Bridge Casino? Is it the name? Burswood Bridge?
Yeah. Well, it's Burswood Casino.
Yeah.
I think it's now called Crown. I think Crown have bought it out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Very nice place. Lovely city, Perth. Beautiful, beautiful.
When did you go there?
Back in the 90s, Norman. I was out there playing cricket, believe it or not. So
Really?
yeah. We came on tour to Australia. My club, we toured in Australia, and we played at Mount Lawley and Perth, and we played at Sutherland down in Sydney.
Right.
So yeah.
So you went from Perth to Sydney to play cricket. That's a
and then off to the Gold Coast, off to more holiday. We didn't play any cricket up on the Gold Coast. We went on the Barrier Reef and various places.
Seriously, I never knew this. Jesus.
3.5 week cricket tour we did.
And Chris has been to Australia, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's pro'd out there twice, up in Perth. Perth's his area. He'd know very well. So he was playing out in Perth for 2 years as a pro. I wouldn't let him. He hates me. I wouldn't let him go back for a third year. I said, "You got to carry on doing." He got offered the contract to go back, but you know, sometimes you got to look.
That's amazing. I didn't realise the connection to Perth you guys have had.
Yeah, we had my club had a few pros come over from Perth. Well, Mark Atkinson was a pro at our club who was opening the bowling back in those days. Top bloke, really good bowler. Crikey, could bat a bit too. He was quick, very quick and nasty. Norman, typical Aussie opening bowler.
I mean, look, it's a great city, Perth. It certainly is.
Clean, beautiful, clean city. Very, very nice.
And you went to Fremantle, I'm guessing, as well, didn't you?
Yeah, and over to Rottnest Island.
You're well versed on Australia, if you ask me. That's quite impressive.
Well, I think it's a beautiful country. If I had a chance, I'd live out there. I mean, I think it's just a lovely place. I love the Aussie people. I think you can have proper banter, friendly, proper banter with the Aussies because they love it.
Well, it's as you know, I'll be in England in June, July for the Ashes series. I'm coming there, and I'm actually trying to get to the Australia-India series in India also in early February, March. All right, so let's get back to this. Australia clearly well ahead at 2 for 293. Got a cockroach just flew past me. Oh my god!
Apparently, young Chanderpaul bats like his dad. Apparently,
almost exactly.
Yeah, that's unreal. Yeah, I mean, that's fantastic. I look forward to seeing him bat, but it might not be overly entertaining with him and Brathwaite opening and batting together. It might be a little bit attritional. Do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the West Indian batting lineup leaves a lot to be desired. To be honest with you, I'm hoping that Chanderpaul can hold them together. Yeah. I'm very sorry. I had a cockroach fly past me just then. I thought that was scared the hell of me. You don't get flying cockroaches in England, do you? So
no, we're more civilized than you out there, Norman. Really,
he's trying to act like I don't see him. He's like lying square on a piece of glass. Oh god, I'm just scared. He's going to fly at me. He's going to decide I'm the next target.
You can eat him, Norman. They eat him in the jungle, don't they? We just had our big "I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here" in the UK, which is a big TV show.
Yeah,
and they eat the cockroaches and the mealworms and the witchetty grubs.
I couldn't think of anything worse than eating a cockroach. It disgusts the pants off me. They're the most disgusting creatures. You can't kill them. You can spray the hell out of them. They'll probably still walk away. Anyway, all right. So
I like Our Earth is Best on the chat there, Norman. I like that. Warner, big X next to him. That's good stuff.
Well, he got out for 5. I think he got out for 4. Our Earth is Best is a big Matt Renshaw fan, and he's been pushing him for a while. And Warner, look, I also met with him and his wife Candice. I had a lunch with him with Bori Majunda and another guy we had with us. We were sitting in a cafe in Waterloo, which is in the inner city area of Sydney, having a chat. And Dave Warner knows Bori very well. Bori's had a lot to do with his contractual stuff in the IPL, so there's a bit of a close relationship there. And Dave gave him a shirt sign, and we had a bit of a chat. And it was very honest and open. It was quite an interesting conversation. And if everything goes to plan, Bori is arranging for me to interview Dave Warner prior to his 100th Test match in Melbourne. He's 97th now, so if he keeps his nose clean, he'll be there for the 100th Test.
I assume, Norman, that you wouldn't be able to ask the questions and be a tough interview. There had to be more of a genial, friendly interview, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very casual.
Because I don't particularly like David Warner very much, but I
was rather impressed. I mean, I have met him several times.
Yeah,
but I have a very different impression of what happened with Bori. He's a good friend of Bori's, and he was a lot more relaxed. And Candice was very relaxed, and they talked very openly and very frankly. They may not have done that normally, but they were quite open, and it was quite a bit, refreshing to hear him talk so openly, to be honest.
I wish, Norman, that he would, if he did what he did and he served his time, and I can go with that, and I can go with him coming back into the side. But I just wish he'd keep going on about he wants to be captain and he should be captain, and he's done his bit. I just don't think he should be Australian cricket captain. I think you have to have a level of decency and honour to serve in that role, and I just don't. I can't believe that he's even going, and he keeps going on about it. From what I hear, about he should be allowed to do it.
Look, the likes of Malcolm Conn and Ben Horn are good mates of mine, and there's no doubt that Ben Horn is close to guys like Warner and Smith and the like. They're more buttering the situation up than Dave Warner, to be honest with you.
Oh, okay.
I mean, he probably does. He would. If someone said captain, he would captain.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's that dramatic because he is 36 now, and I don't think he expects to be captaining anything. And the fact is, he actually has captained games. Apparently, if you look at the record. The fact is, with Dave Warner, he and Smith, if you look at them on the field, not today, but when they're in the field, that they were actually dictating terms to Pat Cummins. I think we talked about this before. They're behind the scenes. Pat goes, what do you think I should do now? So there's no lot of that going on. So I don't really think that Dave Warner is concerned as much as it may appear. But
yeah,
it's more very topical. It creates.
But you wouldn't support that, Norman, would you? You wouldn't support.
No way, and nor should Steve Smith for that matter as well. And there's a whole host of reasons for that. So. I
could see Smith coming back. I could see Smith coming back as captain. I really could. But I also don't believe that no one else in the team knew what was going on, because I played 30 years of cricket and I spent 30 years in dressing rooms. Everyone knows what's going on. They got away with keeping their heads down, not saying anything. And do you understand what I'm saying?
Oh, look, I don't think it's the first time, to be honest, either. I think ball tampering has occurred on many occasions.
Many sides as well. This wasn't just an Australian thing. It was,
But the story goes that the bowling unit of Stark, Cummins, Hazelwood, and Lyon were particularly pissed off with Warner, and they were very reluctant. But they probably did know what was going on, but they maybe didn't want to do it. But they decided to opt and keep quiet. And look, there's a lot to be said about that. Did I also talk to you about? Remember, I mentioned there was a certain media guy that's going to get some attention, Tim Whittaker. Well, he actually got Ben Horn and a colleague of his wrote on the front pages on last Friday's newspapers here about he is up for sexual harassment charge. In fact, he's been more than that. It's actually very serious. It's a predatory nature. There's two examples of it with Cricket Australia and Cricket Victoria. And this is alleged. I should make this clear. It's alleged.
Yeah.
It's still before the courts, but it is alleged.
Norman, who's he?
He was the media manager right throughout the period when a lot of these things have happened. including the Tim Payne saga. So Tim Whitaker was the media manager, and he's up on sexual. It's more than harassment, it's sexual misconduct at the highest level, and it could get up to 10 years.
Yeah, crikey. Okay.
And I was led to believe it was a woman, but it was actually young men.
So crikey. Okay. Well, neither's
anyway,
good. Neither's good.
Yeah, but I mean, it's all, they're all. I'll keep repeating that it's alleged, supposed. He hasn't been convicted yet, but it doesn't look very good at this point. So we'll wait and see what happens. And I've known about it for a while. I've kept it on the wraps, but it was exposed in the paper, so I can talk about it. At least the alleged article and what Ben Horn had said. Anyway, we're talking about 2 or 3 years ago. It didn't happen last week, so it's a bit of a surprise. We're only hearing about it now. But it was for the courts. He was the next court case is like May. He's claiming he's not guilty in his with his lawyers, but there seems to be quite a bit of evidence to suggest otherwise. But of course, this alleged attack has to be verified. Okay, all right. Back to this case. Australia beating West Indies quite. Well, they're not beating. They're doing well against the West Indies in the first day's play.
They're going to murder them. West Indies are poor test side at the moment. Which is a real shame, because there's nothing better than watching that West Indies side of the 80s and early 90s and late 70s. I mean, they were a sight to watch, weren't they?
Especially at Perth. That's where good old Ambrose took 7 for 1.
Who want to face Curtly Ambrose or anyone tall and quick at Perth, eh?
Amazing. So that's Australia's saga. Now the India versus New Zealand match was a bit of a fizzer. Again, there's a lot of rain in New Zealand, obviously. It was washed out. India scored 219.
Too early season to play much in New Zealand, isn't it, really, Norman? It was optimistic.
It was. It was the timing of the ODIs against England and Australia, and this are poorly timed. Straight after World Cup, it was just silly. And it's just proven to be a nightmare for both, in particular, England and India. They both weren't really there. Australia and New Zealand probably had more to prove, and they're both at home, so they're doing okay. So New Zealand so India got 219, thanks to Washington suddenly got 50 odd to make them a little respectable. But New Zealand won for 104 after 18 overs. They were going to thrash them, but it was a washout. So that didn't go ahead. So there's 2 matches that occurred. Now, good old Moses Sheikh, as you know, the guy that's been on my program, he's heavily involved with Afghanistan cricket. He's their go-to man for high performance, and they're playing at the moment against Sri Lanka, who are another hapless side. Afghanistan are nailing it. They're 4 for 237 after 41 overs at the moment. 4 for 237. That means they've got 9 overs left. They could go well over 300.
Get to 300, yeah. And that's in Pakistan. Sorry, is that in UAE?
No, that's in Sri Lanka.
In Sri Lanka, okay. So it could be. Okay.
So it's Palakela, which is up in Kandy.
I've been to the ground, Palakela.
Yeah, it's a beautiful ground.
Yeah,
I was there when it was before. It was stands there. It was just the field. So there's a guy called Ibrahim Zadran is 106 not out.
Okay.
And Mohammed Nabi, who can play as well as there. So Afghanistan.
Played over at Kent. He was at Kent overseas. Nabi's a good player.
And it's amazing because Afghanistan have yet again qualified for the next World Cup, the ODI World Cup. They keep qualifying. They're staying. They're now becoming a permanent fixture of the top 8 sides, really. Yeah. Or maybe 10 sides.
I heard some interesting stats on the qualification for the World Cup. And I'm gonna probably get some of this a bit wrong, but the general feel is going to be right. In that Pakistan have already qualified, I think I'm right, because of their results. Ireland have got 3 games against Bangladesh to play. If they win that series, I think they are going to qualify, and that means that Sri Lanka, West Indies, and South Africa are going to have to go into a pre-qualifying tournament. They're not going to make the full tournament necessarily. They're going to have to go and pre-qualify. And we know, well, Norman, that the cricket's getting a little bit tighter in some of these minor associate nations can get some surprises, especially playing on some of the grounds you might end up with in Holland or somewhere, not down at Port Elizabeth or Durban. They might end up playing away somewhere.
Exactly. I mean, the reality is that West Indies didn't make the T20 World Cup, did they?
No.
Sri Lanka barely made it.
Yeah.
And South Africa, I mean, they were shocking in the World Cup in the end.
What happened to South Africa? Jeez, did they choke it? Did they choke again? And
it's so distinct. It's so horrific. It's hardly even worth noting because it's just almost expected now. It's not even there's no shock about it anymore. That's what's scary. We're not shocked, are we? We weren't shocked.
No, I agree. But I mean, the bigger choke I thought pretty much was the Pakistan against India, the first game. I mean, India needed 28 off 8 balls. You don't do that very often in cricket. That's and then 16 off the last over, and that poor spinner came on, and the pressure got to him, didn't it? He bowled three high full tosses in a row, didn't he? And Virat just said thank you very much.
Although Virat was bowled in one of the balls, it was a free hit.
Yeah. But he choked. Basically, Norman, it got to him, didn't it? The poor lad.
I hate free hits because it's a bit anticlimactic. They can't get out the shots. The batsman doesn't care. It takes away from.
But normally you can't hit it whether it's a free one or not, can you? I mean, basically.
Well, it was funny because in this match I just played against SCG 11 City versus Country, you couldn't get out for a duck, and I was bowled. So.
Did you your 2, Norman? Was it a sparkling cover drive for 2, or was it 2 edges down to third man?
No, actually, one was a pull through mid wicket, which went to the fielder, and the other was a late cut, which I got a single.
You mean you edged it? Don't give me late cut, Norman.
No,
it means you
it
edged.
was a late. Look, those that were there know it was a late cut. So plenty of witness to say that. Yes, all right.
Is coming. Marnus will score 200. I think he'd probably get 250.
Well, he could have, the way the West Indies are bowling, I know. David Graveney's just joined us. How are you, David?
Hey, David.
Hello, Reg. How you doing?
I'm really well, my friend. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Norman's been telling us about his fantastic innings for Australia, for Sydney Cricket Club last weekend, David.
SCG 11, not Australia Pacific. My 99 smash.
What age were the opposition?
Similar.
He got a classy 2, David.
It was relatively classy, yes.
Yeah, he top edged one to mid wicket, and then he edged one down to third man.
No, in fact, I pulled one to mid wicket and I late cut one for a single. So,
did you win the game, Norman? That's the most important.
No, we didn't. Well, I played for SCG 11 City team, the SCG 11 Country team smashed us.
Right.
And they had 2 players that play for China. Would you believe?
Well, no. It's a growing sport in China.
These 2 guys were pretty gun
Women's
players.
Cricket is, I know that.
So I got one of them out, and my only wicket in my 4 overs, no maidens, 1 for 40. But I did take a chance.
40.
Well, 40.
How many times did you get hit out the ground, Norman? Tell us, be honest.
None. The ground was too big for 6s, thank God.
I didn't know there was a ground big enough for you to bowl.
Well, anyway. But I did take an international player's wicket in this match, so let's not forget that. Playing
for Chinese?
Yes, well, it's still an international team.
No, you're right. No, they all count.
They're both playing first grade cricket in Sydney, so they're pretty decent players, except when they face my bowling course. Okay, and we do digress. Okay,
so they're now delaying. Are they delaying the test match, or are they waiting until tomorrow?
Well, there's no decision being made. I mean, Joe Root was in an interview I just played a minute ago. He was joking about the new openers are Triscothic with Key and McCallum was his first drop. He was, of course, joking, but
it wouldn't be the worst best 3, would it?
You're not out there, David. You could play.
Well, actually, I played there. I played in. If we've got the time, Norman, I played in Zahir Abbas's benefit match in a place called Sialkot, which is where he came from. and we played a game there. We also played a game at Rawalpindi, which was played at I would say virtually a club ground, but apart from the biggest marquee I've ever seen, full of sofas, proper lounge furniture. And in wandered all these generals with waxed moustaches, speaking impeccable English, because that's where the armed forces are based, in Rawalpindi.
Right.
So they won't be short of security there. That's for certainty. So it was, it was. So I played for Zahi's 11 against Pakistan. So actually, I was playing against the Wasim Barry 11. That's what.
Oh, there's
Oh, wow.
bloody hell, David. Wasim Barry?
Keeper.
He was a good keeper.
Yeah, it was, but we are going back a few years, aren't we?
Oh yeah. This is late 80s, mid 80s, something like that.
Norman, there's a comment here on the comments from Debasis, who asked me why England are selecting medium fast bowlers in the subcontinent conditions. Think that Jimmy Anderson and Ollie Robinson will struggle in Pakistan. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just going to quickly answer that, because otherwise it'll move on and go away. Jimmy Anderson's probably one of the best bowlers who's ever played the game, and Ollie Robinson is quality. He's proved he's a very, very good bowler. So they've got to be in the squad. We haven't got any fast bowlers. Mark Wood's injured again, and we've got no other fast bowlers.
Well, Archie coming back from, and I would say my knowledge of playing in Pakistan and Pakistan wickets is that actually you need people who are accurate. That's the first thing, and also can make the ball reverse swing. And Jimmy can certainly do that. So.
Yeah, and Robinson
is broad there as well.
He should. Well, no, I don't know. His partner's just had a baby, Norman. So I don't know whether he's been given maternity leave.
Broad is out the series. Broad has been rested.
Is it? Right. Well, I think it was a baby was due, Reg. So
it's been born. Came back end of last week.
He had been unavailable to do the preparation going into the tour.
Yeah,
would have meant that he couldn't go on the tour because they're 3 back-to-back games. So
baby Arabella, I think the name is Arabella.
Right. Good for them. I hope they're all healthy and happy.
Yeah.
Has Stuart Broad got any other kids, like a young kid, boy?
No. That's his first child between the two of them. So.
Well, he has to have another child and make sure it's a boy, because he's obviously his father played for his country. He's played for his country, so we need to follow that tradition.
But they couldn't have played. They wouldn't have played.
A lot of people have gone down that route, Reg. Norman. A lot of people have gone down that route and ended up with 4 girls. So you have to be a bit cautious.
I got 2 boys.
They can play for the England women's team, can't they?
No, definitely can do. There's no time
you look at Shandapur. I mean, it's so fantastic to have his son at the age of 26, quite a late start, playing for his country. Does he hit it down to third man as well? With great regularity.
Late cut, David. Apparently, it's called the late cut.
Yeah, every shot he played went to third man. It's remarkable.
It is quite an incredible batting stance. We've got Baram Irani now. I've actually sent him a link. He's supposed to come on. Why are the English players sick in Pakistan? Any reason for sickness? Well, I'm afraid it's not COVID. It's, as we've heard, it's just a 24-hour bug of sorts, and it happens, doesn't it?
Well, I would have to say it's nothing to do with the food. The food that they'll get in Pakistan is outstanding. It tends to be an airborne condition. And also, I would have to say, these days, travelling on a plane is actually the best place to catch anything. So,
oh god, yeah, or a cruise, of course.
Yeah, and I'm not advocating as an ex-smoker, but actually talking to people who run aircrafts. When people smoked on an airplane, they change the air on a regular basis. And actually, because they've taken smoking out, they don't change the air. So you're sitting next to somebody who might have a few germs, you will get it. That's no doubt about that. So yeah, they'll be fine. It sounds like Joe Root thought it was just a 24-hour bug. So hopefully that's the case.
So DeBossis has come back and said, on dead wickets, you need pace to take wickets. I'm not going to argue with that. Tell me, Debasis, you come up with a name who England could have picked, who's going to bowl fast out there, because there's no one. The locker's empty, isn't it, David?
Yeah, and I would contend that point is misdirected pace is actually easy to play. When you're playing on wickets that have no pace, it comes onto the bat, and Yunus and Wasim Akram, I think they'd be the first ones to admit that reverse swing was their major weapon. So
I mean, Australia beat Pakistan, but I mean, Stark, Hazelwood, and Cummins, they didn't all pull up trees, Norman, did they?
No.
It was more of a attritional.
No, it was. It was attritional, and it was quite an interesting series, Reg.
Yeah.
I watched quite a lot of it. Runs were hard to come by, and the bowlers had to think about what they were going to do, unless they put on average spin like the Australians did, and the Pakistanis hit it into the next field somewhere.
Yeah. I mean, Lyon didn't take a wicket virtually, did he? I mean, for the whole series,
but
he took a wicket.
He swept some play in that series, no one at all.
I think he did.
Yeah, he did. He did.
Yeah.
And he bowled a lot of overs and didn't bowl that.
Looked ordinary.
They bowled okay, but they can play spin, and a name that you might remember, Norman, but Reg would certainly remember. So when we had some problems with betting and people didn't want to go to India or Pakistan, so we ended up picking Monty Panesar because he played, James Foster as a keeper because Alex Stewart didn't want to go, and one guy that we used who within domestic cricket, a guy called Sean Udall. Very effective off spinner, very accurate, spun the ball. Yeah. But bowled it, as far as subcontinent terms, extremely slowly. And I can remember him coming on for his first over to bowl to Enzaman in Lahore. Last over before lunch, normal thing that spinners bowl. Enzaman blocked two in amazement, and he couldn't believe how slowly he was bowling. He just hit the next two straight over the side screen. So you can't bowl that slowly at us because you will disappear. And the same would happen to Indians. That's why Monty Panesar, for all his, Warney saying, well, he's made his debut 50 times or whatever, he's probably right, because I don't think he learned necessarily that much. But what he did bowl, he bowled at a pace the opposition had to respect. And when it did spin, they couldn't adjust because you bowl Asian batsmen out, pitching middle and leg and hitting the top of off, you're a proper bowler.
Gotcha.
And that's where I think Nathan Lyon, I think, is really good, but I think he's. I'm not trying to be insulting. I think in the eyes of Asian players, he would be described as a workman-like bowler. Yeah. He's going to take lots of overs to take his wickets.
Yeah. Well, Jack Leach will be the same, David, isn't he?
Sorry.
Yeah.
David, Jack Leach will be in the same boat, won't he? Because he's not even as good as Nathan Lyon.
No, but it can, and it'd be interesting to see how they play. They normally, how they present themselves to English spinners or whatever. They use their feet all the time. They're not frightened of coming down the wicket, which I would have to say the same as Australian batsmen. I can remember standing in the middle of the SCG, and I sort of, whenever I went to these grounds, Reg, I was completely overawed because obviously I wasn't good enough to play on them, and he was giving me a lecture on how the English players cannot play spin and he was quite right. They don't use the whole wicket, or not the whole wicket, but coming down the crease, which Ian Chappell did. He was.
You were a fine spinner, David Gravely. Don't tell that. You had a 20+ year county career, if my memory serves, probably longer.
23.
Yeah. So you were a bloody good bowler, my friend.
It was ended by some bloke in a crowd at Yorkshire saying, "Where is your Zimmer?"
Now, let's assume that England and Pakistan play tomorrow. Yeah. What's your thoughts on the match? What's your thoughts?
Well, it'd be interesting to see. I can only see from a distance the colour of the wicket looked pretty brown. So I would think that they would. It would be a pretty good wicket, I would imagine.
And
be slow.
Usman Khalil's
Slow.
getting started.
Yeah, I think it'll be slow, so run scoring. A bit like the Australian series. I think it'll be a war of attrition.
I don't think so. I don't think so, David. I really don't. I can't see it. I just can't see England's changing the game plan. And look at the side they picked. I mean, it's all out attack again, isn't it?
It is, but sometimes the wicket dictates how far you can go.
Yes, but none of them are going to be tied down. None of them are going to bat like Brathwaite or Chanderpaul or
I'm not saying
Atherton.
slow as that, but I think
They'll just get out. They'll get out trying to score. That's England's problem.
I think that the scoring rate when the ball is hard will be quite quick, but when the ball gets softer, I think that's when they'll be challenged a bit. But you know, Pakistan, to be fair, their strength tends to be in their pace bowling, not in their spin. You know, I know Mushtaq Ahmed and Sack Lane, they were mystery, but whatever spin that I've seen recently from Pakistan, I would never describe them as mystery bowlers.
Well, they've not picked Yasir Shah, and they've brought in a young, leggy, googly bowler who no one's seen or heard of. Maybe our viewers, listeners will be able to help me out here. He's a young lad who's played 3 or 4 games only in Pakistan.
But I do like the way they've approached it, Reg. That actually they pick people who perform well in domestic cricket, which is always followed by every county doing that or country. So I think they have to be applauded.
But they're going about how strong Pakistan's bowling attack's going to be, and it may well turn out to be. But Haris Rauf has never played a Test match.
No.
Shaheen Shah's out. The other guy, the quick guy, he's a young lad, isn't he?
He played Gloucester.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
he had a Gloucester sweater, Reg. He never played for Gloucester.
Usman Khadir, watch out for Abdul Qadir's son, Usman Khadir. He'll do well.
But they've got a very inexperienced bowling attack here. You know, they'll probably roll us out, but I'm just saying it's not like it's a Stark, Cummings, Hazelwood and Lyon, is it? They've got hardly any tests between them.
But I do.
Oh look, I wouldn't discount Pakistan though. Come on.
No, I'm not discounting them. I think they'll beat us because I think England will go
Pakistan at home, Norman, and anybody at home these days, you know, you've got to be careful. It's like England going to New Zealand. New Zealand know how to play on their wickets after Christmas. So it'll be an interesting exercise like that. But I agree, Reg, they'll play in a certain manner until that certain manner doesn't work. So there's no reason why they have to change before a ball is bowled.
I mean, they haven't even gone with Jennings, David, have they? Who would be more of your typical solid accumulating opening bat? They've gone with Duckett. I mean, wow. He's not gonna hang around. Ben Duckett. He's gonna play shots like Crawley.
Yeah, he will do, but I think he will realise, and I've known Ben for a long time, since he was under 15s and whatever, and he was an interesting person to manage. Let's put it like that. So I think he's grown up. I think he's realised that he, you know, and most of it, Reg, is a lack of respect for the game. In other words, you know, I'm going to play the way I'm going to play, but I'm not fussed about what bowlers you've got. You can't necessarily do that all the time.
No.
You've got to work out what they do and how am I going to, you know, the Test match cricket that's what it's called, Test match cricket. The very best players. So
I think he has Duckett. I think he's matured and he's a good player, but he's not going to bat slowly. His strike rate last year, he had a good season, and I think his strike rate in county championship was something like 78. Which is really high. And if he scores at that sort of rate, I mean, the board's going to be rattling along, isn't it? Because Pope's
the one thing they tried to do last year, Reg, is that they felt that, and they did have a weakness against a short ball. And I think people overdid it, and he's now learned how to cut and hook and pull and whatever. But you're right. He would prefer to hit the ball than not hit the ball. So you know that's why at T20 level, he's a seriously dangerous player. So
is Bairstow back yet?
No, that's a serious break he's got. He won't be back until April or next summer.
Wow. Well, of course, Glenn Maxwell's out for a period as well from his
Yeah.
inoculums or running about as well. So that's a bit sad. All right, so you're not telling me though who's going to win. Who do you think is going to win this match?
I think I agree with Red. I wouldn't say we're definitely. I think we'll be challenged, but I think that the way that England are playing and the confidence they have, I think we'll see them through. I would probably go for a draw or an England 1-0 win. More, I think, at this stage.
I'm
If the England top three can see off the hardness for the first hour and a half, and that means Root comes in when the ball's softer and it's low and slow, I think Root could do what he did in Sri Lanka a couple of years ago and score big. You've got to take your wickets with the new ball in Pakistan when it's harder and it's a bit bouncier. After it goes soft, it's, as we say, a war of attrition. And Joe Root is
after 60 overs, Reg, when it starts to swing.
Yeah. Well, have Pakistan got great reverse swing bowlers? I don't know. I've never seen any of them play cricket.
Swing bowler, and Wasim is a reverse swing bowler.
Yeah.
I'm sure there'll be no shortage of bowlers that can bowl reverse swing in this team. Let's be assured of that. I'm sure there'll be reverse swing.
Yeah,
crazy.
But they're unproven, Newman. That's what I'm getting at. It's all well and good.
I've seen so much white ball cricket. They haven't changed the rules about red ball, have they? You are just playing with one ball. You're not having a new ball from either end.
No, exactly. No.
Well, that's actually quite a good. That's a key point, Reg, because the ball, if you're only using one ball, it's likely to reverse quicker than it normally did.
Yeah.
The one thing about which I disagree with is having a brand new ball in white ball cricket from both ends.
Yeah, I don't agree either.
Because I think you've taken out the skill. Reverse swing is a skill, and if you can't bowl it, the only reason they took that rule out is because the umpires couldn't work out, what's the right time to change the ball. If you remember, they changed it towards the latter end of the innings when it got discoloured. I'm sure they could overcome that, but it has taken away a skill in the game.
Yeah, I agree.
And also, it means that you bowl seam a lot more at the beginning and not spin. And that's only a selfish view that spins. It lessens the opportunity to spin as well, unless they're comfortable bowling with a new ball, which is skill in itself. So.
I mean, we've all seen Harris Ralph bowl, and he looks a fantastic bowler.
Yeah,
but I've only ever seen him bowl 10 overs in 2 or 3 spells in a one-day international. Now, he's going to come into a test match. How's he going to go in his third spell of the day when he's bowled 14 overs previously or 12 overs?
He's as fit as a fizzle.
Yeah. Norman,
I think they'll break him down into 5 overs a session.
Yeah.
And if you can't bowl 15 overs in a day, you shouldn't be playing.
But you'd never know, do you, David? You never know how rock up.
15 overs in a day, you shouldn't be playing.
I mean, but he's somebody, in my opinion, who I know him personally. He'll play all day if he has to. Until he bleeds. So
when he played in the UK, that people really liked him. And Nazim Shah is unfortunately had some injury issues when he turned up to play for Gloucester, and his dad wasn't very well, had to go back. But he has got high potential.
Yeah,
absolutely.
What happened to Mohammed Bass, by the way? That boy can play, can't he? Was he not even in the squad?
He was not young when he was playing, though. I think he was already quite mature in age, but he was a great
player. The guy who plays for Hampshire, Reg?
Essex, I think. Who just every game rocks up and bowls 15 overs, 3 for 2 or something.
That's the I think.
Wonderful cricketer, Norman. Josh Bahaneman.
Who is this?
Crawley.
I never heard of him. What's the...
He bats number 4 or 3 for Lancashire, David, I think.
Yeah.
Young player,
well.
good player, but how you can say he's better than Zach Crawley? He's never played a Test match. How can you know?
He's certainly at the Lions as we speak at Abu Dhabi. I think they might come home now.
Yeah,
he's highly rated.
I just don't see Zach Crawley's opening, and this guy bats 3 or 4. I think he bats 4, David. Does he bat 4 for
Yeah,
Lancashire?
that's down the order.
Very, very different position to bat 4 to opening. It's if you never
Oh,
know.
but hang on a minute.
He is a Lancashire fan. Didn't mention Keaton Jennings, because Keaton Jennings got twice as many runs as anybody else. So.
Keaton Jennings batted really well over here last summer. I mean, he looked a quality player.
He was
Best player in the country.
Explorer. I think I've told Norman this, is that when he was captain of South Africa under-19s, and the background to this is that obviously his dad was one of the best wicketkeepers who ever played, was the manager of the under-19s. But what I didn't know is actually his mother comes from Newcastle, so he actually has joint qualification. Not Newcastle, New South Wales, Norman, Newcastle in England. So, and as normal, as with South African players, they're very, very polite, doff their cap and whatever, particularly schoolboy players. So it's pleased to meet you, Mr. Graveney, or whatever. I know that you know my father. You played against him. Yeah, said yes. So I just said, well, hope you enjoyed the tour. Wish you luck personally. And as I was walking away, he said, Mr. Graveney, can I just ask you a question? What do I have to do to qualify to play for England? I thought, what's an extraordinary comment to make? You just captaining against South Africa under-19s. And he obviously explored that route and ended up playing for England. So
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. He's a good player. Really good player, Jennings. Really good. He's learned. I think he's worked his game.
Was found out slightly when he played in England.
Was it the Aussies or the South Africans? One of the two found him out, didn't they?
Yeah, it's a classic case of a young guy changing or forgetting why he got selected in the first place and changing his technique because of media sort of scrutiny and things like that. So he then got completely confused. And I think he's now learned, if I do get selected and he earned the chance to get selected back on this squad, I'll just play the way I play and see how it goes.
But in the new environment under McCullum and Stokes, that wouldn't happen, David, would it? They're encouraged to be themselves and play their game, aren't they?
Yeah, but play the game, the reason why they got selected, Reg, I think that's the key thing. So,
agree.
With Ben Duckett, they'll say, well, you score all these runs, just keep playing the same way. So, and particularly those two in particular, they're both attacking players. So,
in Australia at the moment, we've got a number of players that are doing well, let's call it domestically, but they're not converting when they play for Australia. I mean, that's the problem that we've got. I think that's where we're over-relying on existing players. Matthew Renshaw is doing well domestically, but he's not getting a Guernsey now for Australia. Do you really think domestic form is the only indicator to make your national selection?
Well, I can only base it on when I was making decisions. And I think sometimes stats can be misleading.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't say, if I got 150, what the bowlers were like, what the wickets like. Some bowlers could be injured, but you can't ignore those stats. Young guys just come up to me and say, Grav, what have I got to do to play for England? And I didn't answer point blank, but I thought in reflection, actually, what a stupid question that is. Because you can't play for England unless you get enough runs or wickets, depending on what discipline you are. So that's your starting point. Then I think that the question is, you as an individual, would you fit into a dressing room environment? Do you understand the team ethic? And both dressing rooms and any dressing room around the world will have a team ethic that they don't want to threaten. They would be. So I understand what you're talking about, but I think the key thing is, again, one of the commentators who is now on RTV, Ian Ward, played for Surrey originally, got lots of runs, and he was unlucky, and he'll probably blame me for the rest of his life. I selected him in a series against Australia, and unfortunately, he played the majority of the series, I think 4 out of 5, but unfortunately didn't reproduce the form that he showed when he was playing for Surrey. So the people who select, the people who manage, have got to try and look into a crystal ball and say, will he be strong enough mentally to deal with the arena and the opposition? Because I'll certainly ask him a few questions, verbally and physically, and reproduce his form. It's still a red ball, still 22 yards. But some people are sadly freeze on the stage, Norman, and that happens worldwide.
It
He lost
does.
his contract, David, Ian Ward. I played against him. I was at Banstead, a club called Banstead, and he'd lost his contract with Surrey and came and played club cricket. I forget who he played for. Can't remember. And he came and played against us on a Saturday in the Surrey Championship. And then by weight of runs, he got back his Surrey contract, and then he went to play for England. And you got to respect the guy for doing that.
Yeah, fantastic story there. Actually, he was rejected straight off, and he doesn't dispute that decision. Went off and played, got his, I think, love for the game back, Reg. I think sometimes when you get dismissed, came back again, got lots of runs for Surrey, earned his chance to play for England. Just didn't quite work out for him. So, and there's been lots of people like that, and he is really good because he would always put it down to him, not anybody else.
That's a good attitude to have. That's a good attitude.
And there is in the sort of training centre at Bangalore, there's, as you walk straight through the door, there's a big poem in big script. It's the first thing, you can hardly walk past it, and you're transfixed by trying to read it. And the essence of the story is, look at yourself in the mirror. Stop blaming everybody else. If you can't succeed, there's only one person you can make yourself accountable, which is yourself. So it's great.
It needs to be a big mirror, David, for Norman looking at, wouldn't it?
What relevance is that conversation?
That was a temporary setback, that match, so don't worry.
All right,
hang
on, to digress. Prithi here has been waiting to make comment. She's asking how the weather is in Australia now. Well, it's mildly warm. It's getting there. Perth was quite warm today. And she's also talked about the women's IPL is launching next year officially. It certainly is. And I'll be involved, hopefully, in some way with that. A lot of the girls are getting there, and I'm very impressed.
Absolutely brilliant.
Going back to what the point you asked David just now, and if I can ask David a question very related. Two England cricketers stellar England cricketers in my memory, and one of them is Trescothick is quite famously known that Duncan Fletcher saw him play in the championship, said that guy, I want him in the side for England.
There
but
were a few people watching
Mike Vaughan had
30 miles up the road. Sorry.
I was going to say, but Trescothick and Michael Vaughan both had average county records, didn't they? So and you would have been chairman of selectors, I'm thinking about. What was it? Character, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it was character that brought them into the side rather than their records, I think.
I went on an A tour with Varney, and the tour in that was like a stellar team virtually. It was captained by Adam Holyoke.
Yeah, what a man.
Andy Jarvis was in it, Mark Butcher, Michael Vaughan, Craig White, Warren Hay,
wasn't it?
Dean Headley, Glenn Chappell. So it was a pretty good team. We never lost a game, actually. Owen Sharp.
Christ.
So we hammered a few people around there. And when you see somebody over a period of time like that, Reg, you can see how they play. And sometimes actually seeing people play on Australian wickets, which are much truer in bounce, and the best players, prosper basically. Yeah. So it didn't cause any great surprise when he had that stellar series against Australia when he got 400s in the series, and was the first person who started attacking Glenn McGrath of pulling back of the length deliveries, because he said, look, he's not 100 miles an hour. Fantastic bowler that he is. And if there's nothing in the wicket, that's a length that you can attack, not just keep leaving it or blocking it or doing whatever, because he'll keep bowling it for all day long. So,
but it's going back to Norman's point, isn't it? That Vaughan's county record and Trescothick, I think they averaged in the mid-30s in county cricket. They weren't averaging 60.
Yeah, I think you can see close up if you see them over a number of period of times, and also if you see them against blokes who can bowl, Reg, then and also you get to know them as individuals. And Michael Vaughan, well, he certainly was the best captain I worked with, and I suppose the same in life, actually. That all you're wanting is that the two highs are not too far apart, either when things aren't going right or they're going very well. Because if they're too wide apart, then you're up and down like a roller coaster. So if you can have some normal thing in the middle, which Vaughan has, Trescothick, I knew I played against his dad because they lived in Keynsham, which is closer to Bristol than it is to Taunton. And his father could have played county cricket, but I think when he says I saw Trescothick play, he saw him play one innings against Callis at Taunton, where Callis lost the plot slightly, got angry, and then bowled him a shed load of bounces over a sustained bit, which that is one ball that Tres can play. So I think in certain coaches' eyes, playing short pitch bowling is sometimes the acid test. And Tres had a technique that he didn't move that much. So
didn't he?
It was a unique technique. And as far as if you analyse his career, he possibly got caught mid-off for naught more than anybody I've ever known, because he never moved his feet, and he just sort of. And if it was slow enough, it would go to mid-off, basically. So.
Let me just update you on the Afghanistan-Sri Lanka match. Afghanistan are now 6 for 299, but this batsman, Ibrahim Sadan, is 150 not out.
Wow.
It's pretty damn good.
Good shout of yours, Norman. You said 300, didn't you?
Yeah. Afghanistan were the real deal.
I think they're an outstanding team, Afghanistan. I said to you, when we were talking about the T20 race, I think how some of their bowlers bowled at the end of an innings was a lesson for every team, virtually. Because I thought they.
I want to know more about this Ibrahim Sadan. 150 off 132 balls, 15 fours and 3 sixes. It sounds like a gun in Sri Lanka on Palakala, which generally is a batting pitch. Still, it's a pretty damn good effort against Sri Lanka at their home grounds. I'm very impressed. Now, you've been conversing with Mosen, have you, David, about a few things?
Yeah, I needed to go to the Middle East first to find out. In a perfect world, what I was looking to do is to set up a triangular tournament between England, Afghanistan, and UAE.
Right.
When it's not too far away. Sometimes when you're going to India, without elaborating, which I think it's improper for me to elaborate, sometimes getting into India, depending on your team, can be difficult in terms of passports. West Indies is I don't know, it's a fantastic place to go, but practice facilities are pretty challenging. Cost to go to South Africa. So the UAE is what I'm saying is closer, and it's just a matter of working out cost. But Afghanistan under 19s predominantly practice there. The UAE, an emerging country, they both have an array of spinners that would challenge, our young lads, because that's the area that we need to work on. So it just seemed to. So once I have that conversation, I'm going to get hold of him and congratulate him. So it sounds like the way that Afghanistan are playing that Sri Lankan cricket will have another reselection in terms of who's running it, because they don't have to have too many defeats for them to change. So.
Well, they're 7 for 301 with an over to go, and there's Ibrahim still there on 150 not out. Amazing.
Oh, brilliant.
Oh, it's sensational. It really is.
Actually, they were hampered with the weather in the T20. They could have actually progressed a lot further than that.
Oh, God, yeah. And look, and Mosen Sheikh, I tell you, who's a good friend of this show, is an excellent high performance specialist.
Singing his virtues, Norman, since we were on when we were on the show together, so it was good. So are you doing this now on a regular basis, Norman?
Yes, absolutely. We'll continue doing this with both the duration of the India, there's Pakistan, England, Australia, West Indies, which will move in Australia, South Africa soon, too, and obviously there's a fair few series going on. Yes, I'll do this regularly from now on.
Right.
I've had my little hiatus.
Right.
We missed you, Norman.
Yeah, so I'll Reg, the fixtures have come out today in the UK. So if you're going to any domestic cricket in the UK, just give us a ring and I'll meet you there.
It'll be lovely, Norman. I'm not far from you now. To be fair, I'm up in Herefordshire.
Oh, right.
I've moved, so I'm up in the wilds of Ludlow, near Ludlow.
Did you know, Norman, actually, Reg is a secret member of the SAS? That's
I
where
found
they're,
I'm finding
that's
this every
where
5
they're
minutes.
based in Hereford.
Well, he's been in Perth several times, as well as Sydney under my nose. I did not know about this. So there you
So
go.
this is the classic case of how you get out a speeding fine in Hereford. Right, drive a real smart sports car, look really trendy, James Bond. When you go in front of the
Beak.
courts or the beak, you just say, "Well, I'm part of the SAS. I can't tell you anything."
All I know about Hereford, isn't there Hereford cows or something? Isn't there?
Yeah.
There's a lot of cows and sheep around this neck of the woods, Norman. I've got to tell you, it's beautifully rural.
Well, make
So
sure
have you left Chris? Have you left Chris behind? Have you? Is he
Yeah.
living there?
Yeah, it's down in Kent still.
Ah,
Right.
interesting.
All right, then, chaps.
All right.
Norman, good to see you
All right.
again. Glad to see
Likewise,
you back.
David.
You're back in town. So good, Reg. Always a pleasure.
Cheers, David. We'll meet up for a beer one day. That'd be my absolute honour.
When
me.
Norman comes in summer, we'll definitely be meeting up. So don't worry about that.
Brilliant. We'll have to do an Eyes on Cricket, Norman, live in the UK when you're over.
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah.
All get together in a pub somewhere and do a live broadcast.
Well, we've got to choose a slightly better venue than he was doing from the MCG for the final.
No, Norman looked like
Appeared
a
to
trap,
be-
didn't he?
appeared
Lying
to
out
be
in the
in-
concourse.
Yeah, it needs to be in a smoking zone. The MCG.
I was very, very leisurely that day. I must admit. Very good.
Anyway,
A lot of fun.
cheers,
A lot of
guys.
fun.
See you later.
Cheers,
All right,
David. Take
All
care.
right. So, Reg, just quickly before you go.
Yeah.
So, next year is going to be action packed. We've got a lot of stuff going on, and I'm going to urge you and Chris to come to India at some stage. We'll try and work something out because there's. Would you go to India?
I'd love to, Norman, if you can sort out or whatever. I'm retired now. I've got some time.
You should.
So
I mean, IPL probably not the go, but something like the World Cup next year, because I know that Debashis, Sen, and Boria are very keen to bring Chris along, and you would be a perfect addition.
Well, my cricket credentials aren't anywhere near as high as Chris, Norman. I played a reasonable level of cricket, but nothing like Chris plays. And Chris is obviously, as you know, a well-respected coach as well. But yeah, he'd be ideal to go along.
Look,
I would give you someone to drink with, Norman.
well, it's a big year. So Australia play India in the 5-test series early February, March. Then there's the IPL. Then there's the Ashes, which is in your neck of the woods, but followed by a World Cup in India, which will be massive. I think that would be something to aim for, if not earlier. So there's a few things we're going on. Even Adam Hollyoake's going to get involved. We've got a few discussions going with Monty. There's a few things going on in the background, including Alan Mullally too, by the way.
Well, there we go. I think India will be very, very hard to beat for the World Cup in India if they pick their side right, and
Correct.
that's the thing. That's the thing. That there's a lot of politics goes on in Indian selection, I think, and I come.
We're losing you there.
They won't let them go, Norman. I'm back. Yeah, I can see you. I'm still here.
So
Are you back?
Prithvi, I think she's taking a shine to you. She wants to come to Bangalore.
Well, there we go. If I get an invite, Norman, I can go anywhere. But she'd be very disappointed if she met me. That's for sure. She needs to meet Chris.
Now, another point. Robert M, who's a regular, has said, "Hey, Norman, hey, Reg, when's Archer due back? Is he due back?"
I've got some news on that, Norman.
Have you?
Yes, England played a warm-up game last week for this Test series against the Lions. Did you know that?
No.
Okay. Jofra Archer opened the bowling and hit Crawley smack on the head first over, and he was clocked at 90 miles an hour. So Archer is definitely on the road to recovery. He has been picked up for the 2020 tournament in South Africa. He is in, forget which side, the same side as Rabada, whoever Abada's playing for. They're in the same team.
Right.
And because South Africa are starting their own T20 competition. I think it's called the SA20. Is it called? It's called something like that.
Let's be careful to say it's their own T20 competition. It's actually an IPL franchise.
Yes, it is. You're right. No, Norman, you're absolutely right. But it's down in South Africa, so they're trying to. They need the money. I mean, they're desperate. They need it to be a success. So Archer is
South African cricket's in a horrible financial mess. I'll tell you right now, it is in a horrible financial mess.
Yeah. So the good news for Archer is I will be absolutely amazed if he isn't smacking Steve Smith on the head again, and Steve Kiss can go crying and have another few days off like he did last time the Ashes were over here. What do you reckon?
There's some early barbers being thrown here. I can see people. Let's be wary of it.
If Archer's fit, he'll be in the England side. Whenever they deem him fit enough, he will come straight into whatever format that will be.
Excellent. Excellent.
He's star quality. Star quality, Archer.
Afghanistan, after 50 overs, were 8 for 313. And then opening batsman who batted the entire innings, Ibrahim Saran got 162. I'll tell you what, he must be pretty bloody good. I'll tell you, that's a bit of an effort. In Sri Lanka against Sri Lankans.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing.
It's exciting watching them play Afghanistan.
Delightful.
They play well. They're up and coming. The game's changing.
They're very hungry. That's what Emotion Sheikh always tells them. They're very hungry to learn, hungry to do well, and they've got depth. This is what is amazing. I don't know where this depth's coming from, but they've got a hell of a lot of raw depth going on there. And I think, oh my God, Afghanistan are now a top 8 team. You can say they keep qualifying for World Cups. It's incredible. When they play more Test cricket, which is the clincher, that's when they'll really know where they're at. Yeah. Okay, so all right, India, New Zealand, such a waste of time series. It's been rained out. India aren't at their best. New Zealand's playing well at home. It's a nothing series. The big one is England and Pakistan. I think that's a massive one. In terms of the World Test Championship too, as well, that's another.
England can't qualify for that. Pakistan can. England can't.
Right. But that's
any Pakistani supporters, Norman, who are watching this, I'm telling you, England will carry on doing what they did here last summer. They've said it. They're not going to change it. Their selection of their team says, I mean, we didn't even touch the fact they picked Liam Livingstone, Norman. Liam Livingstone to come in at number 8. And I'm telling you, anyone who hasn't seen that guy play, he hasn't played a red ball game since 2021. He didn't play at all any red ball cricket in England last year at all. And McCullum is on record as saying, so what? The guy can play. And if he's coming in against an oldish ball, he could smash it that's what he's going to try and do. He might not succeed, but it's not going to be boring. England could get rolled over in 2 days here, but they're not going to die wondering. They are going to absolutely go for it like they did over here last summer. And anyone who watched any of the cricket from England last summer will know that it was unlike any Test cricket we've ever seen. I've never seen Test cricket played like it. We chased 300, 380 in one game. Just chased it down with ease by going for it, not batting at 2.5 runs per over. We were going at 4, 5, 6 and over constantly.
But I hope they do that against Australia in the Ashes. I really do. I want to see that.
They're not going to change. Provided McCullum and Stokes are still the 2 at the top, then next summer's Ashes is going to be, well, I don't know. You'll just have to wait and see. That England will smash it. We'll try and smash it. I'm not saying they'll win. I mean, but they will absolutely go for it. And they're going to try it in Pakistan, which is going to be hard. Low, slow pitches.
We are forgetting about Pakistan's upper order who batted so well against Australia.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying that the England batting will absolutely go for it. They're not gonna bat, 50 off 800 balls type cricket. It's going to be 50 off 40 balls type cricket. They're going to go for it.
So it's intriguing though. I have to say, from what I've seen in the previous series, winning the toss is bloody important. because we want to win the toss and bat first.
Yeah,
Okay?
yeah.
You really do, and that could be. It actually could. Okay, it'll play in Pakistan's favour if they win the toss, but in a bizarre way, it could actually play in the England's favour because if they're chasing, they love the smell of a chase, don't
England
they?
chase all the time now, but I can't see that would be the right tactic in Pakistan to bat last. I just cannot see them doing it. The only player in England's top 8 who will bat with any common sense of, normal, what we call normal batting, is Ben Folkes. Everyone else in that top 8 has a strike rate that will be 70 or above generally.
So Joe Root faced the media conference today.
Yeah.
I'm guessing Stokes was ill.
I heard that Stokes wasn't one of the ones who come down with illness, but yeah, he might have come down ill. So Root was sent out, was he? Yeah.
Yeah. So
I think 11. I heard 11 of the squad were ill, which means
the 24-hour bug. They're not going to delay it. I bet you. Even though they might be under the weather, they won't delay it.
The fact that the ECB were already in conversation with the PCB would suggest that they're trying to. And
I've got no doubt they're trying to. I've got no doubt they're trying to. But
you know how politics works, Norman?
Yeah.
ECB have got a lot of power and a lot of money, and all of a sudden they offer Pakistan a lucrative tour back here, or England to go and play a couple of one-day games over there, where it's good television money coming in. You know how these negotiations behind closed doors are always interesting, Norman.
I know. Pretty's asking for our Instagram idea. I don't know who. We've got to find who this person. All right, so
Pretty, when you get to Norman's age, we don't even know what Insta is.
Insta sounds like I'm here. That's about all. The fact that so Rapakshi would have been on tonight, but she's not here. But she's still keenly involved, and Aparna's still playing around. Aparna's going to get if everything goes, she's actually getting media accreditation at the moment, would you believe, for the tennis, and she'll be covering the Australian Open because she's a tennis player. You know that Aparna played a very high level of tennis. She's playing. She's going to be on. Boria Majumdar from the India Rev Sports has got her going to go hopefully to all the 4 major slams this year to cover it. Pretty impressive. I'm pretty excited for her.
Yeah,
it's very
I'm
good.
being asked questions, Norman. Here, sorry, I'm being asked. What do I think?
A lot of questions.
What do I ask of David Warner's performance today? Didn't see it. Don't like him. But Norman would tell you more. Bear in mind, I'm not in Australia. I'm in England, so that's going on all through the night for me.
Well, he got out cheaply, but it's a bit early to be discarding him. Anyway,
I don't think you should discard him.
No.
But I think Stuart Broad will be looking forward to him coming over here next summer. That's for sure.
Oh,
and
sure.
Robinson. Robinson's a good bowler. People haven't seen Ollie Robinson. He's got something different. He releases the ball from the 3rd highest release point in world cricket at the moment. Yes. I know one of them is higher than him. Jameson in New Zealand is the highest release point, and I can't remember who the second one is. But Ollie Robinson's
West Indian bowls, maybe Asari Joseph would have it be up there.
Yeah, so he bowls. So he doesn't bend his front leg. He pivots over his leg, so he can bowl at a fuller length, but get the ball to bounce because of his release points being very high, like Ambrose used to do, Norman. So the batsmen don't know whether to come forward or back. So Robinson has this amazing knack of nicking people off because they're caught in 2 minds. Now, I'm not saying he's going to do that in Pakistan. I imagine he's never played there, but he's a good bowler. He'll do well in next summer's Ashes, that's for sure. Aussies will be worried about facing Robinson. He's decent. He really is decent.
I can't wait for that series. I think it'll be great. I think Australia will they have a different team than they've got now? I don't think they're going to rue it. I don't think Stark, Hazelwood, and Cummins are the right bowlers anymore. I really don't. And they need
time moves on, man. Time moves on, doesn't it? You've got to start integrating some youngsters in to be replaced. And they're all going to retire together, if not, aren't they? They're all very similar. Stark's a bit older, isn't he? I think.
Yeah, but but you're right. They're all ending at the same time. There's no one on the scene other than Scott Boland, who only seems to bowl in Australia. It seems that we're lacking succession planning, even with the likes of Warner and Smith, who are still doing okay, but they've got to start to blood some younger players. And I keep banging on about Jason Sanger. We talked about it with David a minute ago about people with domestic form. Jason Sanger's all over the place. He's someone who should be given a go on a hunch. I really do think so. He's played again. He's played under 19 captain. He scored centuries against virtually every touring side. He proves himself at an international level. Get him in that team. I'll tell you now, they're missing out on a combination of Greg Chappell and VVS Laxman style. That's what he's like. Incredible
I'm going to
player.
disagree with the buses here. Last comment. I know Cummins is only 29. Hazelwood 31, Stark 32. They're not retiring anytime soon. I think they probably will retire sometime soon. I think that as a fast bowler, they've been around a while too. It takes its toll. It really does.
Gotcha.
Stark, even though I honestly thought he was a bit older than 32. He looks like he's coming towards the end, Norman, doesn't he? Stark?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Stark's physicality, being such a tall, rangy sort of fellow, he has a lifespan of.
It's a fantastic career. I think Hazelwood's had some injury problems, hasn't he, as well? Yep. I like Cummins a lot, but I thought he was older than 29. I must admit, I do apologise for that, but I don't know. I just think, and Lyon's got to be 35, hasn't he?
Close, yeah.
So they need to think. They really do. Someone's asked.
Well, Adam Zampa is going to be taken on the Australia-India series, and I agree with that. He should be playing long format as well as the short format. Yeah, he's a quality bowler.
Roberts asked if Anderson will be there next year. 100%, absolutely, he will be there. James Anderson made absolutely no doubt he's not going to retire. Well, he's not going to retire. He might not be picked. Let's not prejudge selection here. He might be dropped, but he is not going to retire before an Ashes summer in England. I'm telling you, I can guarantee it. And the way he bowled last year, oh crikey, Norman, he's very good. It's just very good.
I truly think they're going to both. Broad and Anderson will play the Ashes and retire, and have a great send off. I think that's deserving for them both.
Broad's 4 years younger than Anderson, and he's been bowling. Yeah. I agree with you, Norman. I agree. I think they will both. If we win the Ashes, and let's face it, that's not going to be easy. But if we do, then they will go out and rightly so on their own terms in a let's say blaze of glory, for want of a better word. But James Anderson will be hailed as one of the greatest bowlers ever to have played the game.
No doubt.
And he's a fantastic bowler to watch. Broad has produced spells where he has been unplayable. He's what's the word I'm looking for, Norman? He will occasionally have that golden hour, Broad, where he absolutely destroys the side. He did it to Aussies 7 or 8 years ago, didn't he? When he bowled you at 60, eight for whatever he took for it. I mean, unplayable.
Michael Clark was in that match. I'll never forget. It was absolute rort.
Yeah, he bowled beautifully, Broad. Prediction. My battery's going to give up in a minute. I've got 100% of my battery's nearly gone because it was fully charged. We've been on half. Predictions for the series. Come on, Norman. Give us it. Pakistan or England?
Pakistan win 1-0 at least. I think there's more riding on the series for Pakistan than there is England, and Pakistan really were unlucky not to beat Australia when they were there early this year, whenever it was. To me, Pakistan will win, and I'm not knocking England at all. No. I just don't think. I think Pakistan have got enough of a batting lineup to keep them going, and I think their bowling lineup, despite being somewhat depleted, will be able to pull it off. I think that, and that doesn't detract from England. England are a great side, but I think the win at all costs batting style may not necessarily work.
No, I agree. Norman, me and you, for once, this is the first time, Norman, we're going to agree on something.
Well, there you go.
That's how low I've sunk. I couldn't have sunk any lower than to be agreeing with you.
You've reached heights you've never reached before. That's what you really mean.
I think that Pakistan will probably win the series 1-0. because it's shorter days out there. There's going to be less cricket played. You only get a 5.5-hour day because of the light situation. So we're not going to get anywhere near our 90 overs in a day in. No hope of that.
No.
I think
Rob Evans asking, has Fox got the game on? I believe so. Yeah.
Oh, it's Sky Sports in England. So I think, though, the only other thing I would say is if England carry on playing like they did over here and they get away with it in Pakistan, it could be very exciting.
Oh, for sure.
And you could see England face 300 plus and do it again, because they will not play for a draw. Anyone who's watching this, take my word for it. If England are batting last and they're set 400 to win, and in a day and a half, they're not going to block it out like Atherton did that time in South Africa and before. There's no way England will lose rather than play for a draw. Norman, they've got a completely different mindset. So
Busts my heart. It's been very nasty here. Look what he wrote. No one predicts Pakistan will win the series. Now I'm 100% sure England going to win the series.
I hope he's right. DeBasis is a man of obviously good common sense, Norman. So we'll have to see. It's going to be exciting. England batting will go for it. So we'll wait and see.
I'm just my thing. Just one thing about England. They've been such a huge high with the T20 World Cup. They've played a lackluster ODI series. I know there's different players in the mix, but psychologically, it's very hard to get up for the series. Yeah,
but only who played in the series against Australia? No one, I don't think. Is anyone playing who played in that?
I'm just trying to think. I don't think it's a matter of who's playing. I think it's England as a whole have had a high, and it does affect players. It surely had an effect on the ODI series.
What a silly thing to do that was. 3 days. 3 days after winning a final,
Well, India and New Zealand's doing the same thing too. Don't forget, it's equally dumb. It's just really, really wrong. It was a major timing mistake. Hopefully, we won't have any more COVID, so we won't have a reason to be putting World Cups back to back anymore. Although we've got one next year, the ODI, and then followed by a T20 one in America and Canada. You know that, don't you?
Yeah. Be fantastic, wouldn't it? Is best says, does England have the batters to win the Ashes next year? The answer to that is absolutely they do. Because Harry Brook, who a lot of people wouldn't have seen, but England really think he's going to be star quality. He's in Pakistan now. He's going to play. He's batting 5 tomorrow. That guy's going to be a proper talent, Norman. He's only young, 21, 22, maybe 23. He's young. And he's got something. He's got something, that boy.
When you hear Dave Gravity talking about him and singing his praises, we know Dave's a good judge. He's sort of Sam Curran highly, and he's been quite, and look at Sam Curran, player of the series at the T20 World Cup, and played outstandingly well.
Curran is, Dave, I can't tell you, Norman. Curran is fantastic. Wouldn't every side want a Sam Curran, a guy who gives it absolutely 100% with every ball he bowls, every shot he plays? He's one of those infectious characters who lifts you. Curran is unbelievably good cricketer.
Let's not take away from Ben Stokes yet again hitting winning runs in a World Cup final. I mean, the guy times his run immaculately. You've got to give it to him. He got 50 in a World Cup final. I mean,
he gives it all, doesn't he? He's another guy. You see, you need those sorts of players, don't you?
Ben Stokes, to me, starts to deserve almost the same level as both of them. I'm sorry. I think there's enough evidence there to say the man is of that caliber. And I think if you look at his record, he's proven it on that test win at Edgbaston, whatever it was just amazing.
Headingley,
sorry. But to me, that is, he hasn't finished yet. He's something. World Cup, T20 and ODI format. The man is proving to be. I don't think he's been valued as much as he should be, to be honest with you.
He's an immense cricketer. He bowled 17 over spell last summer, either side of a break, 17 off the reel when his knees completely gone. and he won't stop. He's that sort of guy. And he stands up in the big games, Norman. We talked about choking earlier, weren't we? That, a few international sides. Mr. Stokes is a guy who stands up when the pressure's on, when the chips are down.
I mean, South Africa should pay Ben Stokes $10 million when he retires to hang around the South African team for a while and say, "Hey, this is how I did it, guys," because they need him badly. It's just disgusting. They're really amazing.
Debate wants to know why Josh Buttler struggles in Test cricket.
Yeah.
I think it's a slightly technique, and it's probably just more of a mental thing. Under this new regime, you could think he could get back in the side, really, because McCullum and Stokes would say, just go and bash it, Josh.
Yeah.
But I just think that his Test cricket days are done now. He's concentrating on one-day cricket and the 2020 leagues around the world. He'll be making himself a multi-millionaire. And he's possibly, well, I'm going to get shot down here. He's possibly the best one-day batter in the world, isn't he, Josh Buttler?
No doubt.
He's
and
pretty.
Again, in person plays well when it counts. Just quickly on contracts.
Yeah.
Discussions in Birmingham that Marcus Stoiner's got $7.9 million to play for whatever IPL franchise.
Wow.
Gujarat. That was pre-auction. The money that's floating around for players, not only just for the IPL 2 months, but that whole year contract concept, they're getting paid between $10 and $20 million. So you will see, a whole, like your Butlers, certainly all the Indian players, Australian players, they're all going to get paid 10, 20 million a year. They're going to be less and less available for other forms of cricket. I'm telling you.
My phone's on 2%, Norman, so it's going to cut out. To say something, if it does cut out, it's because my phone's gone, not because
That's right. I'm just saying that the South African franchise, the UAE, even the Canada, the America versions, the Caribbean, they're all going to swamp. And Australia, I keep saying this, the BBL format's in deep trouble if they don't say, okay, IPL, we put our hands up, take us, give us your $90 million a team scenario, and we'll still be able to play with the same names, but we'll let them get involved. Then we'll start seeing Indian players playing in Australia, and we'll have something serious then, because at the moment
they're struggling. The players are dropping out, aren't they? All the big names are dropping out for the BBL.
Well, why would you play a BBL match and get paid $300,000 when you can get paid $3 million, or if not 10, 20 million playing for the other league? I'm sorry, we have not got the money to compete, and we've got to get rid of our pride and just say, right, okay, hands up, IPL, buy us out. At least we'll survive with more money, because imagine we get Kohli playing in Australia and in a BBL, it'll be fantastic, but he won't do it until it's contracted to do so. So that's the problem.
No, all right. My phone's going to die.
No, it just did. All right. So Reg's phone just died. We know that. So we lost. We spoke until the very end. Reg was fantastic. Thanks to David Gravening as well. We had, I think, the likes of Robert M there. We had Tabashir Mahani, of course. Baram Marani was there for a while as well. Arrow his best. Cam Green doesn't need a ton, by the way. He's all round batting, bowling, fielding is more than capable of putting him in the right league. So so in about another 45 minutes time, Australia play Denmark in the World Cup, and they could go through to the next stage of the qualifier or next stage of the rounds, round 16, whatever it is, if they win. So that's the thing. Yeah, Richard's on the phone. Thanks everyone for that. Thank you, Norm, for having me on. Thank you, Richard. It was great to have you on. Richard's magnificent with his thoughts. He's now in retirement. He's gone up north to Hereford or whatever, Herefordshire, leaving Chris behind and Kent. We'll see more and more time from Richard in the future. England need a perfect dinner with the Ashes. Well, they're going to go pretty close. Jofra Archer comes back with Mark Wood. Oh boy, we're in some trouble for Australia, I'll tell you now, because their batters can handle it. Robert M. Bairstow's out until April, they say. At least, even Glenn Maxwell's probably in the same boat as well. Both those players will be out for some time. So, yeah, that's your reasoning. All right, guys, I've gone an hour and 39 minutes. I'm going to call it a due. I'm going to have to just Peter Schofield's put some pens he's got there. I don't know what this is. Yeah, so as we'll conclude, Australia playing against West Indies is 2 for 297, thereabouts, with Labuschagne 154. Zadran got 160 odd playing for Afghanistan versus Sri Lanka. Halfway through that match, over 300 runs, scored 313 in fact. The third match, India and New Zealand, washout, even though India was pretty much beaten in that match. And the fourth, of course, starts tomorrow as well, which is Pakistan versus England, which will be an enthralling test series, to say the least. You'd have to think very highly of that. And Robert Engels, Stark, Cummins and Hazelwood are not, in my opinion, a dangerous threesome or with blind quartet anymore. I think that we need to find some more bowlers there. They cannot stay at that level any more than they have. So that's my thoughts on that one. So, all right. So 3 p.m. England is on 5:02. Okay, 5:03. That's great. So 5:03 is Foxtel. So that's great. I'm glad they're on there that we can watch there. Got any Robert M for finding out. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting time. Australia versus West Indies looks like, unless West Indies bat out of their skin, and Chanable, young bloke, it's a century. Perth stadium capacity is 70,000. It's around the 60, 70,000. Yep, it is. It's massive. They've got 70,000 there watching, I'll tell you. Prithy's texted me on Instagram. Let me have a look. Are you really, Prithy? Are you really who you say? Treyas Dyer's last 9 innings in ODIs, he's got 80, 54, 63, 44, 50, 113, 28, 80, 49. It's pretty big. Pretty impressive. Good. General requests. Prithy, is that you there? Is that you, Prithy, there? Is that you there? If you want to come on, Prithy, I can get you on now. Prithy, I can give you a copy of the link. You want to come on, do you? Do you want to come on? I can get you on the show if you want to get on. If this is you, let's have a look. I'll just get you to come on. Give me a sec. Pull up the link. This is a bit of a hunch here. Invite guests. Okay, so Prithy, if you are who you say you are, you come on. If you're not, we'll see. I'll just send you a link. Okay. What is your full name, Prithy? You need to tell me what your full name is. This is a link to come live. Okay. So we only got 2 posts. Okay. Just looking at some of the results here. Just telling her to join. If she wants to join, we'll just see whether she is who she is. Okay, so already into the 1st of December here in Australia. 1st of December. It's just become the 1st of December. Oh my God. And only a matter of another 40 odd minutes. It's the they can't allow what can you say? Just come on, Preeti, come on. You're not good enough. Look, come on. Okay. Robin M says, well, the cricket thing you guys did at 8 p.m. making a return. Well, I'm thinking about it, Robin M. What's today? Today's, well, it's past Wednesday now, isn't it? So, well, I'll try and get them to come back on, guys, probably next week. Okay. I'm holding the show on for a certain person now. I'm just going to wait and see whether they come on. We've now gone for an hour and 46 minutes. So Sri Lanka's situation is pretty bloody grim. Trying to find some rules and comment. All right. 33,955 subscribers. It's pretty reasonable. Well, has my age got to do is my question. Okay. Who's the rubbish Victorian? Who are we doing knocking here? Okay. All right. So it's time to end the show, guys. So we've been on for a simple. It's It's amazing we're talking about Ashes 23 when we're really not even near that. All right. Any other questions, guys, before I leave? No?
So you probably think the USA never played cricket. But what if I tell you that one guy played so well, he actually had English women thrown at him? No, literally. तुम्ही लोकांनी देव बघितलाय का?
Okay. Warner at Wenshaw in Ashes 23. Brendan Paul Willop for Perth. Okay. Well, Norman faced. There could very good chance that Norman will actually face Chris Vernon in England next year. It may well be that Chris Vernon faces Norman. Probably more that way, I would say. So, yes, it's every chance. He's playing for the MCC. If he can request. What do you think Australia will target? They'll go for 500 runs. It's also 500 plus the way they're going. Why shouldn't they? It's almost like a batting format. Arath is best is extra from Sydney. There you go. All right, Richard, thank you for being on the show today. David Graveney, I thank you also for being on the show. It's now an hour and 52 minutes in. We really have got a lot more we can talk about. Australia, West Indies certainly is we're talking about. Australia was 2 for 293 with Labuschagne 154 thereabouts. Afghanistan, Sri Lanka went on for 6 after 2 overs, chasing 313, not looking like they're going to have a chance. India versus New Zealand, of course, India will score 219, rather lethargic score, and New Zealand were 1 for 104 when it rained. And of course, England versus Pakistan hasn't started yet. They'll be on tomorrow. Well, tomorrow, if everything goes to plan in terms of the players are fit enough, England will try hard to change it, but I hope they don't. They've got to get their act together. If you're full sick, you prepare yourself for the team. Again, don't you? So, I mean, there's no excuses. All right. This other fellow's not coming on, so Warner's lack of red ball prep shows in waning test returns. That's a bit hardy. In one innings, it's hardly. Okay, there's a potential that they're saying that. I hope not. Okay, guys, it's time to go. We'll see each other tomorrow when the matches are well underway. All right, so take care. Eyes on cricket. All the best. Make sure you do like and share the post and subscribe and hit the notification button.